Welcome to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling. You are about to discover impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you, so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Be sure you visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now tune in, get ready, and enjoy the journey of emerging as a leader of exception in the 21st century.
Welcome, everyone, to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast. I'm your host, Vicki Noethling, coming to you from Roswell, Georgia. The goal of this podcast is to bring topics and guests that will empower you to become that confident leader and take your business and your life to the next level. Today, I am very excited to have with me my guest, Angelo Ponzi. And let me tell you a little bit about Angelo. Angelo is a fractional CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, and his company is called Craft. He specializes in consulting, interim fractional marketing and strategy, leadership, and coaching services, prioritizing strategic and analytical approaches to marketing to foster sustainable business growth. He helps companies better understand their competing market by researching customers, prospects, competitors, and the marketplace. His approach is to help companies better understand their competitive market. Then he creates a marketing blueprint or revenue plan for clients. He oversees, manages, and implements so the client stays on brand and gets the maximum benefit of that plan. So our theme today is, why hire a fractional CMO? Please join me in welcoming my guest, Angelo Ponzi. Angelo, so nice to have you on. It's interesting, and we'll get into the questions in a moment, but my cousin-in-law, I guess, has been a fractional CMO for many, many years and very successful at that. And so I was anxious to meet another person who does the same thing.
All right, well, thank you, Vicki. I'm happy to be on the show and looking forward to our conversation.
Fantastic. So we asked two easy questions to begin. The first is, where do you live? Where do you call home?
I'm in Orange County, California.
Ah, very good. Yeah, I spent many, many years there. And so share a little bit about this journey. What brought you to this? I kind of don't think that you started out of college or high school doing fractional CMO. It's relatively, I don't know, new in the sense that I mean, I've been in business for 40 years. So it's new. It wasn't there in the 70s and 80s, let's say that. So talk to us a little bit about, what was the journey like and what led you to say, you know what, there's a better way to do this.
Sure, and thank you for the opportunity. I will say, from a strategic and using the foundational of market research to gather insights has kind of always been my core competency, as well as doing plans. So long story short, really long story short, I ended up moving from New York to California, ended up in the advertising agency business, and there became an account executive, but then moved on quickly to become strategic planner. So I spent many years in the agency business. I always complained about my clients. So I was client side to figure out, what they were doing wrong. And then I became one of those clients for a while. And I bounced back and forth a few times.
Yeah.
And then there was a point in time in my agency world, I tried to buy the agency I was working for. And at the last minute, they said no. They sold it to somebody else. I said, the heck with this. And I went out and I talked to all the agencies I competed with over the years. And I left that agency and I became a freelance strategic planner. And so I worked with agencies doing kind of what I do now.
Mm-hmm.
And that lasted about 5 years, I'll say. And then right in a row, there were a couple situations where I helped win business, and then they reneged on their deal and said, "Oh, now we're just going to hire somebody inside." And then I came to the conclusion, why am I doing it for them? I might as well do it for myself. And so I started my own agency, and I built that up over the next 13 years. At the same time, I actually launched a research company focused on the action sports industry. So I was kind of doing two businesses at once. And then I had found a new creative partner. So my agency was very strategic. We didn't do any creative. We did everything else, marketing, PR, research, media. And we found this boutique creative shop. And so we went from being more of a B2B shop to more of a consumer shop. And then a very large agency, one of the largest independent agencies even still left today, came in and they bought us both and put us together. So we launched a new agency. And we were there for about 8 years, growing that. And we were very successful at it. And then the agency parent company decides to move us. And of course I had young kids, and it was like, I'm not moving. And so then I ended up going back to client side, and it was a boutique research firm, marketing firm. And again, long story short, I was there about 2.5 years, but at one point in time they got acquired, and we had a government side and a commercial side. And I was on the commercial side, and the new owners came in and they were launching their strategic plan about the future. And after the CEO made his big presentation about the future, and I raised my hand and I said, my division's not up there on the screen. And I watched him panic, and I decided, I'm done. And since I had had businesses before, I really wasn't afraid to go out and start over again.
Yeah.
And so I had this opportunity to say, what do you really want to do? Do you want to start another agency? You know, you can't throw a rock without hitting a digital marketing firm anywhere.
Right.
Or stick to what you truly believe and what you've been doing for 30 years, and that's using research and foundational work and strategic planning. And so that's what I decided to do. I just had my 10th anniversary this past April, so I'm 10.5 years doing this. Thank you. And yeah, and I find, and we'll get into this more, I guess, but I find in my work, when someone comes to me and says, hey, I need a social media campaign or a PPC campaign, if they don't have the foundational work, it's like, I don't know how to market you. I don't know how to communicate, because I don't know your customers. And frankly, you don't know your customers. You're telling me what you think. And frankly, how many of your products and services are you going to use this year? And so I always gravitate to, I have to sit at the table, even if it's just project work, to really do that foundational work to help companies grow.
Yeah. Makes perfect sense to me. I was project manager for over 27 years, and that was the one piece that I always insisted whenever I started a project. I hated when I took over a project, because generally the foundational work wasn't done, that information gathering, and you ended up paying at the end, either in actual dollars or people or time, because you didn't know what you didn't know. And so perfect sense. What are the benefits, do you think, of hiring this fractional CMO versus the traditional, let's just hire somebody, put them on the payroll?
Yeah, so part of it is about what's the level of person that you think you need or want.
Right.
A lot of, and I'll deviate for a minute. A lot of the companies I work for have like marketing managers or directors, but they're very tactical in nature and not very strategic. So they look either for leadership to tell them what to do, or they're making it up. And so when I get involved, it's because they either have a revenue problem, they have a messaging problem, their competitors are eating their lunch or launching a new product, or they need to pivot or rebrand. So there's an option. I've been in this business 30 plus years, so I'm not inexpensive if someone were to try to hire me, but that also brings overhead, all the insurances, and with it like 30% on top of whatever the salary happens to be. And so there's an inexpensive way to get the strategic leadership you need by going fractional or interim, but interim adds another layer of expense. And so when I've gone kind of more interim, the period of time, it just is shorter. And at the end, they still have to hire somebody that kind of to replace me. On a fractional level, they can get the same experience and talent, if you will, whether it's me or anybody else, for that limited time without all the other stuff that comes along. So it's like bringing in a special teams if you're
Yeah,
like
right.
football, right? You're in Georgia, you love football, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like bringing in a special teams, and you're except you're not paying,
Yeah. No
full price for
insurance, all
somebody.
that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, all that stuff, and so part of for me is always I have to have a seat at the table. If you're just going to tell me what you want me to do, then I'm not your guy, because that's where I really understand when we not only talk about customers and prospects and competition, we also do a lot of work internally.
Mm-hmm.
Because as you probably know, I mean, you go into a company and leadership is not in alignment. Now, my belief is if leadership's not in alignment, no matter what I do, they're not going to be in alignment.
Right,
So how do we get them in alignment first? And so that's really, again, lot experience for less money.
Absolutely. So how does having a strategic mindset, though, help you in this role of fractional CMO? And you touched on that, the transactional versus strategic, but share a little bit more about, the benefits of this.
Sure. So for me, it's about digging in, and I'll use a couple examples. So I did work for about 3.5 years. There's a long-term client in the home compostable straw industry, right? There's plastic bans happening all around the country. Some are on plastic bags, some are on straws. If a state has, some states have bans, but some cases it's the counties or the cities. So it's very fragmented on where these bans are. And so when I got involved with the organization, one of the first things I did is I mapped out where all the bans were across the country. So we went into Canada. And so we needed to know, why would I spend a lot of time trying to convince somebody, and I'm making this up, in Kansas to bring on our straws, our home compostable straws, when there's no ban, there's no urgency, there's nothing happening, right? And so we mapped out where our targets were. Then we looked at straw consumption, right? We looked at the hospitality industry, looked at fast food, we looked at convenience stores. And then we kind of did some homework to understand motivations and behaviors. So you could go in and say, I'm going to target, McDonald's, and they got stores all over the country. So where are the bans? What are the motivations for them to bring on these kinds of straws? Or just say, we're not giving you straws anymore. Well, we know that's not going to
happen.
Not going to happen, right? And so we kind of mapped that out. We looked where all the corporate headquarters were for various fast food, fast casual, and convenience stores, for example. We mapped them out. We looked where they were located. We looked where the bans were. And so we could lay a very strategic plan and saying, the company was, 20 years old, but this new product was only less than a year when I got involved. So we have limited resources. We have limited team members. So how can we focus and go in with the strongest message? And it was about not only the ability to reach them, as what's the message. I can just say, hey, use our straw because you're going to save the environment. Well, I might not care, because I might have a whole other bunch of initiatives for sustainability, and a straw is not one of my top ones.
Right.
And even simply, we looked at like fast food, let's say, and then we looked at convenience stores. Just by identifying a motivation, it was actually more difficult to penetrate fast food. Why? Because we go to whatever, McDonald's, we get our burger, we eat in the restaurant. In convenience stores, people drive in, they get their gas, they walk in, they get their Slurpee, they walk out the door, and they drive. Convenience stores had a motivation because they didn't want to see their product sitting on the side of the road. So just that simple understanding that came out of customer research allowed us to change the messaging and the way we spoke to those organizations versus the way we approach. So that's when I talk about strategy. I mean, that really lays that foundation. And by doing that, it allows us to, build those plans, allows us to create better messaging, and then ultimately whatever the tactical stuff happens to be. And in doing the strategic work, why would I run PPC campaigns on Facebook? If you're an industrial manufacturer, your business is not coming from Facebook, right? So by knowing how you get information, then we can also make sure that the strategy of the tactical executions on strategy and making sure it's on brand and all that other stuff.
Excellent. All good points. And to the point, having done things like that, yes, absolutely good information. So the next thing I kind of think follows along this too. What are the advantages of having a collaborative approach to communication and the teamwork in your role?
It's essential.
Yeah.
It really is. And I'm an outsider, right? And I walk into an organization, and if they have people, the first thing they see me as an outsider, and then they find out they have to report to me. There's always a resistance, right? Because he's part-time. We're only going to see him on Mondays or on Wednesdays. And, why are we listening to him kind of stuff? So we have to get over that hump.
Yeah.
And so another example, I worked with a luxury watch company, and they had 15 people. They basically had an internal agency, and it was in disarray. There was no plan. The people didn't particularly like each other. There'd been some turnover. And so one of my assignments was stop the bleeding and get the people to like each other and work together. And so one of the things I did is I went in, I spoke to them as a group my very first day, and then I had them come in individually and just tried to understand. And again, because they see me as an outsider, they talk to me. And so I was able to figure out where the issues were, who was the strength, who were the leaders, who were the followers.
Yeah.
And then and I was there 8 months. Over the course of that time, I was able to bring people together. I got them involved. Their biggest complaint about the last person was they were never involved in the planning. They were just told what to do. I got them involved. And so they saw that their work was being considered.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't right, then we talked about it. And so that open communications changed really the way they operated. And we saw a significant level of productivity improve and just relationships among the team. And that's happened over and over and over again, whether it's 2 people or 15 people, is to make sure they understand that they're valued and that their thought, their experience are considered. And so to me, that's extremely important.
Yeah. That's why I teach leading with the heart, the head, and the hand. You have to build those relationships first. Once you do that, then you understand what the needs, the pain is, and you can speak their language, that they will be motivated, and owning the solution is so important.
I think sometimes management forgets about the people. And I see it where they'll ask somebody, hey, tell me about your latest strategy that just happened or whatever, new campaign. And they're like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Or, what do you do at this company? And I'm in accounting. So how does that contribute to the overall? I don't know. I just do accounting, right? And so I try to talk to organizations that your people have to understand they're just part of the puzzle, or cog in the wheel, and they have to understand how they impact everything that happens, right? If we make a sale, manufacturing has to produce it, accounting has to invoice it, and I try to paint that so you are seeing that value because you contribute, not just the salesperson, right? You contribute to making this happen. And so to try to elevate their, I don't want to use the word worth, but I'll say that in a sense that they feel, hey, I'm doing this. I'm not just punching numbers. Those numbers are allowing us to buy, give a greater insight so we can buy more inventory or whatever it happens to be. So that's really important. Not only that in my work, but to me, that people understand, their contribution and how it impacts the end result.
Absolutely. So What are some brands that you've worked with? You touched on a few, but who have you worked with and what kind of results did they see? Just give us some examples.
Oh, well, I'll go the straw company, for example.
Hmm.
When I joined, it was 7 months in. They hadn't really sold a whole lot of sales. And so their goal was 1 million. And we double that in year
Nice.
one. And then 3 years later, we tripled that.
Wow.
And so we had a different infrastructure. We brought in new machines. And so we were able to increase our capacity. And again, working closely with sales, right? Marketing is kind of forget the strategic side, the implementation. We're the top of the funnel, sales at the bottom of the funnel. We can drive a lot of stuff in, but if it's not executed properly.
Right.
I work I'm working with a manufacturing company that's kind of an outsourced OEM manufacturer. And so people have excess capacity or need, various products built. They'll go to this organization and they'll resource it and produce it. That's how the company started 20 years ago. But a few years into the business, they had found a niche. And so they started putting all their emphasis into this niche, this vertical market. And the OEM business kind of went away, frankly, just very little revenue over the years. So my assignment last year was to help them kind of re-implement and bring that back to life. So we spent a lot of time, again, everything I've said, we talking to customers, looking at the market, looking at the needs, because they offshore some of it. I've got all those issues I have to deal with, and how do I message that and convince you it makes sense? And so we redid their website, because I believe the website is your calling card.
Mm-hmm.
I forget the latest stats, but especially in the industrial world, but same with consumer, we're going to go to the website first.
Absolutely.
To check it out, or we're heading to Amazon, right? And so, getting all that infrastructure together, and then we launched a campaign. I think it was in May of this year, and they went from, smiling and dialing to now we have inbound leads. And so we're seeing traction. We're only focused on LinkedIn. We're seeing, we went from 0 followers to we have, I don't know, 400 or 500 now. We publish newsletters. We publish email marketing. We're doing posts. So they went from doing absolutely nothing to really marketing themselves, and we're seeing the benefits of that. And so I'm excited about that. I mean, I have a long history of working in the wine industry for a long time, and worked with Kendall Jackson, right? And there was a period of time where Kendall Jackson was I'll call it very special. You might take it to a party, give it as a gift, but over the years,
Chardonnay.
Yeah, exactly. Over the years, it just became very common. And so when we got involved, I mean, literally, you could find it at the local chili cook-off being poured, right? So it just became commonplace. And so the founder, which was Jess Jackson, who's no longer with us, said, I need to make this special again. I'm 75 years old. This is my legacy brand. I want to rebrand it in the sense of its positioning, not necessarily change the name. And so we headed off to do that. And so we looked at all the volumetrics. We were tracking it. We were doing quarterly research studies to look at changes in consumer behavior and all those kinds of things. And over the period of time that we worked with them, it was about 5 years, we saw consumption go up. We saw, targeted efforts of the pricing went from like $5 or $6 a bottle all the way back up to like 14 or 15.
Right.
So we saw those trends happen, and that was a great example. And for your audience, it's not a set it and forget it.
Yeah.
You have to nurture this. I told somebody the other day in a presentation, it takes years to build a solid brand. It takes minutes to destroy it.
Yeah, for sure.
And so those are just a couple. If you ever used Simple Green, I was very involved in taking that from more of an industrial product to a consumer product. So when I went to household cleaners and the sprays and
Hmm.
barbecue cleaners and golf club cleaners, I was very involved in that. Actually, working for their agency as the strategic planner. So I did all the plans for them and the rollout, and so I've got a lot of stories like that, throughout my career, and I got some that didn't work too, but those were some they don't always
Positive.
work,
That's
right?
right.
I ran into a client, a prospect, who this actually about 6 months ago, and said, I need a guarantee. And I said, I can't guarantee.
Yeah.
There's just too many factors. And after a long debate, I finally said, you know what? I can guarantee you. And he said, really? I said, yes, but I need your job. I need to be the CEO of the company. And this way I could make sure everybody does what needs to be done. And he laughed and he said, I get it. And we're not working together because I thought that would
That's
make
not
the
happening.
best play. Yeah. But it's and I think that over the years it's what's amazed me the most in going into organizations is they've been around a long time, and they operate the status quo. Hey, we
Yeah.
did that, we're going to add 10%. I work with a company. I sit on their board now in the Christmas world, and when I met uh doing my due diligence and met the VP of sales, it was like, what's your target for next year? And he told me, and I said, how'd you get there? He goes, well, I just added 10%. I go, but how'd you get to the 10%? And there was no logic. It was just
Yeah. Just add.
pulling it out of
Yeah.
his hat. And that happens way too often.
I know. I know. Seen it myself. Oh my goodness. Time has flown by. I can't believe this. We could just probably chat for another hour. Um, one last question. What's next for you?
So what's next? Um, so I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing because I love it.
Yeah.
I I've got several books in different stages sitting on my desk. So I am going to finish one. So I started, yeah. So the one I was going to finish by the end of the year is now the second one, and I have a new one that I'm actually have the transcript right here. So we're just kind of proofing it now, and so that is my goal. So I
Hmm.
want to do that. I used to teach some marketing extension courses at the University of Irvine, and so
Yeah.
I want to go back and do that again. And so I had an opportunity just before COVID, and then I kind of fell down on it because COVID was,
COVID,
I was
yeah.
worried about everything else. But I like to get back. So my plan would be some books, do some teaching, have a few clients and do what I'm doing, and do more public speaking.
Yeah.
I've been getting involved more in the M&A business and acquisitions,
Hmm.
and showing a lot of the acquisitions. The finance guys talk about it, the insurance guys, but they never have a marketing guy on the.
That's exactly right.
And so I've been sitting on some panels and running panels on acquisitions, to try to show that what we do makes sense, because you have to understand, the market, not just what the financials are telling you.
Yeah.
So yeah, just I like what I do, and so how can I leverage that into others? And I like to give back and teach and do those kinds of things. I
Awesome.
lecture a lot at the universities around town, but I like to get back to teaching.
Fantastic. All right. So those of you out there that said, oh my gosh, I just really need Angelo and what he does, and I don't have a marketing group and I need some help. So if you want to be able to connect with Angelo, I'm going to share my screen as always. If you're just listening, you can go to my Vicki Noethling YouTube channel to get all the show notes and all this information, or my findyourleadershipconfidence.com website. Those listening, here is the information. It is craftmarketingandbranding.com. Again, craftmarketingandbranding.com is the website. On LinkedIn, you can find him just by his name, Angelo Ponzi. And I'm going to turn it over to Angelo. He'll tell you some things you'll find when you go to the website, and also what he puts out there on LinkedIn. So, Angelo, it's all yours.
Thank you. So if you go to the website, under the resources, I have a lot of free stuff. I have a book on how to establish a competitive intelligence program, one on storytelling. There's a mini marketing course that's free.
Awesome.
I do have a workbook on there. That one is not free, but it's inexpensive, and it really it's meant to have a company dig into the information they need to create their strategic plan. Lots of videos on there as well, and I blog typically twice a month. So if you wanted to subscribe to the blog, if you join me on LinkedIn, we also publish a newsletter on LinkedIn. If you sign up into my newsletter, you'll actually receive newsletters once or twice a month, and we post 3 times a week. So we're pretty active. I drink my own Kool-Aid. You know, if I tell clients to do this, and they go, "Why aren't you doing it?" So I do it.
That's
We've been
right.
doing it a long time.
Fantastic. Lead by example. Angelo, it's just been great chatting with you. I loved all the information you shared. It's all right. It's accurate. You need to listen to this man. So thank you so much for being a great guest.
Thank you, Vicki. I really enjoyed it.
Awesome. As always, I remind everyone that life is a journey, and it's up to you to enjoy the ride. This is Vicki Noethling, signing off.
Thank you for tuning into the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling, where we share impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Remember to visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast.